Welcome to episode 13 of the Magpies and the Phoenix podcast, recorded today on the 2nd of March 2023, a Thursday evening. And I've been to a game this week, Bemerton Heath, but mainly this will be concentrating on a few key issues, mainly, of course, Phoenix Sports. The main team that I follow, as you all know from the podcast previously, and have had a very busy, and I think, just checking the stats, since I last did the podcast, an unbeaten last day of January, rest of February. So they have gone up to second in the Scaffle, and I'll be going through their fixtures, some of which I've seen, some of which I haven't, in this episode of the Magpies and the Phoenix. Also on the agenda, a Wessex League roundup. I've been to a few games in February, 4 I think, 3 of them involving Andover Town. 1 in a cup competition, 3 in the league, 3 new grounds I think. Yep, 3 new grounds. And finishing off with a game on Tuesday night at Bemerton Heath, which was a really good game of football, and I'll be going through that. My Millwall misery memory. It's a set of memories, going back, looking through, and saw we played these guys on the 2nd of March in 1991, and they're memories of a ground which is currently a non-league ground, not a football league ground, but it's still a football league club, and our rotten record there, which we finally exercised in 2000, the year we got promoted. But between then and before, my heavens, that team caused us some misery. We'll let you know that team is coming up later. Then I'll go into a very brief thing about Holsworthy. I've not seen them and their results haven't been great in the last month or so, but my focus now will be on Holsworthy for the next couple of weeks, because I'm going to see them on Saturday, and the following weekend. So yeah, looking forward to that too. And then a roundup of a few other clubs and anything else that takes my fancy as I'm recording this, and I think of something as we go along. So let's kick off, and it's the February catch-up for Phoenix Sports. And when we left you, Phoenix, back at the end of January, you just lost 2-0 at home to Rustle, and that time was second. And it felt like a pretty shocking defeat at the time, and I'm pretty low about it as well. But Phoenix, to be very fair to them, had a very difficult away game the midweek after that, away at Fisher. Fisher had knocked us out of the Scaffle Cup. I think it was the Scaffle League Cup. Quite easily. It was 3-2 apparently, according to Mark, who let me know what was going on during the game. That score rather flattered us. It wasn't a great performance. And Fisher, bit of a rep. Hard team to go to. Very tough team to play against. And I know when we left the May place after the Rustle game, there was a bit of a downer on it, because they felt this was going to be a really, really tough away game against a team that, if truth be told, I don't think our styles match. But good news for Phoenix, they come out of it with a 2-0 win. Scrappy. Walks, I suppose he had a really good game, according to my sources there. 2 scrappy goals, one from Francis Babalola and the other from Matt Bourne. More on Matt later. Gave us a good 2-0 win. And that set us up for February, because that was the 31st of January. And in February, all eyes went on to the game the following weekend, the big one, at home to Erith and Belvedere, runaway leaders of the Scaffle Premier. Lost 1 game all season in the league, I do believe. And although they didn't have Danny Lear, their top striker, they're still a formidable outfit. And it was a hell of a game, to be honest. Certainly the second half, it was a very tight first half, 0-0. We took the lead early in the second half through Tashi J. Kwai. One of those where I looked at my brother and said, "You're 1-0's not enough here. Yeah, there's no way we're hanging on to this." It's one of them things where you're trying to talk yourself into the fact that you'd hope they'd hang on. Anyway, they didn't. About 75 minutes in, if I recall correctly, Erith and Belvedere equalised. Then there's a controversial moment with an offside goal for Tashi J again. He appeared to beat the offside trap according to all the video evidence. Looking at it from the VO, it's not quite as clear as it was from the video evidence that we produced, but it got a bit of heat and light. Tashi finished it beautifully, but it wasn't a 2-1 lead. It's still 1-1, and of course you know what happened next. Erith and Belvedere virtually went up the other end and scored. So they went 2-1. But, fair play to Phoenix. Fought hard. And deep into added on time, Andy Pugh popped up at the back stick from a corner. Put the boy to back in there. Got a 2-2 draw. It was a bit... Yeah, you come off that. I hung around for a little bit after the game. And as you could feel, it was mixed feelings. We'd taken a point from a team that very few people had taken a point from at all that season. But you just felt could have been 3. We were in front. We had a goal disallowed. And yeah, I think that's what Steve said to me after the game. It was like, frustrating, but we got a point against a team that not many people are getting a point against. So yeah, that was that result. We then had a week. We did a midweek fixture, so the following game was on Saturday at home to Stansfeld. In the previous game at home to Stansfeld, Phoenix scored 4 goals, and in this game we scored 4 goals. Unlike the other game, we didn't concede 6. We kept a clean sheet. Stansfeld had a man sent off early on. I wasn't at this game, couldn't make it, various reasons. There's a podcast I recorded, which I've not released, which will explain those reasons, but I won't go into them here. But yeah, it was a good 4-0 win. The goals came from Matt Bourne twice and Tashi J. Kwai twice. So that was a surprising result. Stansfeld, they're not the front runners they were early on in the season, or certainly the front runners of the chasing pack to Erith and Belvedere, but they're still no mugs. They'd had a bad result in the League Cup. I think it was 7-1 maybe to Fisher the midweek before. So we came on to them probably on the back of some lack of confidence, and I think so often it's important you meet teams at the right time, and I think we might have met Stansfeld at the right time. We still have to play them away from home. I think that's around the Easter period. But yeah, good result, 4-0. But the thing was, at the time, Erith Town just kept on winning, and they played a similar amount of games to us. And yeah, they were nicking 1-0 wins or 2-1 wins, and you could feel the frustration. We're worried that we're dropping points. But that wasn't a bad result at all against Stansfeld. We might have dropped 2 against Erith and Belvedere, or picked up 1, whichever way you want to look at it. But to win 4-0 against Stansfeld was a pretty decent result. The following week, we had Glebe away. I went up to that one at Foxbury. Did you know I scored my highest ever cricket score where that Glebe training ground is now? I think I might have said that about 50 times to my fellow supporters and probably fed up with it. My wife certainly is, because she knows about it every time we used to drive past that ground. Anyway, local derby. This time, unlike the home game, JB Philpott did play for Glebe. Kept him pretty quiet, to be honest. Because in fact everybody was pretty quiet. It wasn't much of a game. It was probably one of the worst games of the season for entertainment value. Tense always is. Tense felt like a local derby. Didn't quite have the energy or the fear maybe of the home game early on in the season, when I felt that Glebe were going to be right up there. Here, Glebe are part of the chasing pack. If they get a great run, they might get into it, but it's just got the feeling they're probably looking forward to next season a bit now. Goalless draw. Nearest anyone came to scoring. Tom O'Connor, in about 10 minutes to go, goes through towards the left-hand side of the penalty area, clips it past the goalkeeper. One of those where the ball's rolling inexorably towards the goal, and you're saying, please go in, please go in, please go in, and it hits the post. You say, please go in off the post, but no, it comes straight out, and Glebe cleared. That really was all she wrote. There wasn't a lot more. Andy Pugh missed, I think, a good chance early in the half, but there wasn't a lot more after that. 0-0 draw. Again, reaction from supporters there was, they're on a decent run, Glebe. They're not doing too bad. Away point. Yeah, we'll take that. We'll take that. Thing is, you sort of thought, that's the sort of game that teams that are going up win. So yeah, 0-0. I'm a pessimist. Midweek then, a game I couldn't get to, Canterbury City, bottom of the table. And it's one of them where we've got a WhatsApp group to update us as how the game is going. And I'm sitting there during the first half and going, where's the updates? Where's the updates? Where's the updates? There were no updates because it was 0-0, and apparently not a lot happened in the first half. And you're thinking, right, this is going to be interesting because this is probably an absolute banker for us. And then 10 minutes into the second half, we're 3-0 up. Goals from Mikey Dalton. don't know. Still don't know how he says his name. He's spelled Mikey, so let's go for Mikey. He hit one through through a crowd of legs from just outside the box to put us 1-0 up very early, 2 minutes in the second half. Tashi got a second, and then his second and our third is an absolutely fantastic goal. If you can get it off the internet on YouTube, really try to get it. It is fantastic. He pushes it to one side of the defender, outside the box, runs around him, and then smacks a beautiful low shot into the bottom corner. Wish had been there. Really good goal. I like Tashi a lot. I think he's a really fine player. A lot of injuries this year, but he's striking form at the right time for the Phoenix. So 3-0 routine. Would have hoped we could have did a bit more, but at the end of the day, 3 points is 3 points. We got a lot of the teams near the bottom to play still. And so you've got to take care of business. All these crap cliches, but that's what you got to do. And again, that was what we did. Then I was up there last Saturday. I wasn't meant to be up in London last Saturday, but events meant that I was. So it did give me the chance to go and see the game at home to Whitstable. And as I put on both Twitter and on my blog, the Whitstable game is important to me because that was a game I saw last season when we were both in the Isthmian South East, which we won 2-0, and Steve Carvell scored a fantastic volley, which I just got a super sight of because I was actually stood right behind as it went in. So it's nice to go and see them again. And Whitstable were on a decent run, but it was they're very similar points, but played quite a few games more than us. And we knew that you really felt that if Whitstable were to try and have a chance at second, they had to win this game. And it was a really tight affair. We had the best. We played quite well first half, if I remember rightly. And it's only a week ago, so I should. Took an early lead through a penalty for Ryan Hayes after Tashi was brought down. And then some really excellent work by Babs on the left-hand side of the penalty area. Gets to the byline, crosses the ball over. And Tashi's there 6 yards out to slot in to make it 2-0. But Phoenix don't do things the easy way. They went in at half-time 2-0 up. Whitstable, to be very fair, came right back at us in the second half. Got one back whilst we were down to 10 men with the sin bin. It's the first time, I think, in the league this year that we've had a player sin bin. The only time we've ever had players sin bin this season, if I've been there, were 2 in the Deal Vars game. But yeah, we conceded a goal with about 15 minutes to go to make it 2-1. And then they had a goal disallowed for offside about 5 minutes from time, which the away bench were incandescent about. But he does look a little offside, but it's really, really hard to tell. We clung on, held on to a really important 2-1 win. Steve absolutely chuffed about that. Steve O'Boyle, our manager. Again, a bit of graft. But again, come off, and then you hear that Erith Town, who were 2-0 down at half-time, had come back to win 3-2, and they're becoming a bit elusive, and they're slippery little eels, and they're keeping us from second when we think we're going to get there. Anyway, then we had to miss this midweek. I obviously couldn't make it. Living down now in Hampshire, Wiltshire border, can't come up every time. I've not made of money. And so we played Lordswood away. This was the game that I was trying to get to in January, which got postponed whilst we were on the A20, going down to it. Anyway, looks like a tough game on paper. Lordswood are playing pretty well at the moment. It's an away game midweek. We're not a great midweek team, it seems. But no fears on this one. 5-0 win. And the descriptions I'm getting back from the guys was that it was a really, really good performance. Probably our best of the season, or up there with our best in the season. Ryan Hayes scored 2, including 1 penalty. Tashi scored 2, including 1 penalty. And Connor Johnson got the other, deputising for Andy Pugh, I suppose, resting him for a bit. Another clean sheet for Andy Walker. And news came through that Deal Town had beaten Erith 1-0, which put us second. We're level on games, and I think we're 2 points ahead now in second place. So, brilliant finish to February. And the team seems to be playing in a decent run of form. We're not conceding many, and taking care of the home games and business. So it's been a really good month for Phoenix. I don't think anyone thinks we're at the top of our game. I think there's still thoughts that we're 10, 15, 20% more to give. And we're going to need to give it, because coming up in the next few weeks are a couple of really big games. Most notably next Wednesday when we're at home to Erith Town. This game's been reorganised, I don't know, more times than something that gets reorganised a lot. And yeah, that will be a big one. Unfortunately, I can't get to it, and I'm really, really gutted that I can't. I thought it was going to be March 22nd, in which case I could have made it, but March 8th, just too difficult for me. This weekend, we're away at Hollands and Blair. We beat them 6-0 at home. An away game there on their new AstroTurf. Sorry, that's such old-fashioned calling it AstroTurf. 3G or 4G. I don't know how many Gs there are in it. Anyway, we got them away. They've just had a very confidence-building cup win. And, yeah, they're not playing too badly at the moment. They're not the team we beat 6-0. Let's put it that way. So, again, you're going to have to earn everything we get out of these games. There are tough games on the road that we've got to play, and this is one of them. Also, just looking forward to March. If I do this podcast now more on a monthly basis, we're away to Deal on the 25th. That just feels like a bit too far away for me to go from home and then to London and then to Deal. But, you know, it's a long time. 25th of March is a fair old way away. So let's see where we go. Obviously, one of the players of the month for us is going to be Tashi. He's got 8 goals in 6 games. He's on fire at the moment. He looks pacey. He looks good. He looks fit. Pray that he stays fit, because he really hasn't been lucky with injuries this season. And my new favourite player, unfortunately, Joe Denny's left us as a centre-back. Reasons. And he went off to Erith and Belvedere, got injured apparently last weekend. So get well soon, Joe. One of my favourite players at the club. And I'll always have that memory of the Erith and the Glebe equaliser. And marking Brett Pittman and annoying Brett Pittman at the end of the Vars game. Those are the 2 biggest memories I have of Joe. Anyway, we've got Matt Bourne in, who's a Faversham legend, apparently. I don't know if that's true or not. I've not been around long enough. But I like him. He doesn't look anything like a footballer. But he's a really, really good defender. He's popped up with a couple of goals. There was one moment on Saturday where he dummies the centre forward to let the ball go through to walk. So I just thought, that's just class. I love all that. So yeah, Matt Bourne's one of my new favourite players, and of course there's plenty of scope for headlines around the Jason Bourne films. If he's in charge of the defence, it's the Bourne supremacy. If he's telling someone what to do, it's the Bourne ultimatum. And if we go up, it'll be a Bourne legacy. So yeah, lots of things like that to put in the blog. But yeah, one of my new favourite players, and really good to see him playing for us. So looking forward to the next couple of months. In step 5, of course, as he turns his page. In step 5, you only have 2 places that matter. First goes up outright. Second has to play one of the teams in the bottom areas of the divisions above, probably Eastman South East, but not for definite. We're currently second in the table, just above Erith, as I've said. This second place is probably between us, Erith, and Deal. Rustle might have something to say about it, but they've not been quite getting the results that they would have hoped for recently. But there's all to play for in the next 2 months, next 13 games. I think it's a real fixture pile up here because of the weather over the January, February period, December and January period. And of course, we've got a cold snap looking to come along in the next week, according to the weather forecaster. So it's going to be a very testing time. They're going to need to get the fixtures off because there's precious little room to fit them in otherwise. So there's a lot of fixtures coming up in March, obviously. Looking at the fixtures for Phoenix, there, as I said, there's a number of teams nearer the bottom than the top that we've got to play. We've still got to play Holmesdale twice. We haven't played them at all yet. We got Bearsted at home. We got Canterbury away. Case Sports away, which is possibly my next fixture in 2 to 3 weeks' time. So yeah, teams near the bottom. We've still got to play Punjab at home, who are flying and got to the cup final. I think that's Kent Senior Trophy final, where they actually knocked Erith and Belvedere out in the semi-finals. So yeah, lots of games to play, lots of twists and turns, no doubt, upon the road. But a fascinating last few weeks. And so with that, it's time to move off down my way and down to the Wessex League. And I have been to 4 games in February, 3 of them involving Andover Town. The first one was a Wessex League Cup game against Hamble Club. They're in the division above. And are probably most put into my memory, I try to think of the word indelible or something memory for me with Hamble. is they were the team that were 2-0 up away at Portchester when Portchester were down to 9 men, were unbeaten in the league, and the floodlights failed with 15 minutes to go. That game is going to be replayed next week. I think that's... I just think that's wrong. You're at home as well. That's your floodlights failing. I think you should pay the price if you're 2-0 down with 9 men. But this is Portchester, and they seem to get the rub of the green. They got knocked out of a cup competition the other week, 8-0, just to find that one of the players that was playing for Farnborough that day was ineligible, and they've been reinstated to that cup. It makes you wonder, really, doesn't it? The luck. Some guys get all the luck. Anyway, I'm digressing. Handball. They were playing Andover Town away. So I went to the Portway Stadium. You can park nicely outside. Part of my ground guide for the end of the year. It's a nice little ground as well. You get quite an elevated position in the seating area. And they won 3-0 Andover. They played really well. I really like the way they played. They use wingers. I always like that. They got Ben Emmons on the left. I can't remember the guy on the right. He was their captain, but he's been injured for the last 2 games. And then they got Lewis Williams, who's a little forward. Really fast. And Malachi Johnson up front as well. And I was massively impressed by them. I thought they played fantastic. And they beat Handball 3-0. And they should have beaten by more, to be honest. I then spoke to a couple of Handball fans at the end of the game, and they said to me that wasn't their first team they put out. There was a lot of youth players there. It happens in all cup competitions, doesn't it? This is the Wessex League Cup. This was the quarter-final stage. They then the second round. That game had been postponed about 4 times already because of the weather. In the quarter-finals, they played Shaftesbury. Not quite sure the scoring order, but I know they were 2-1 down at half-time to Shaftesbury and came back to win 3-2. So they're now in the semi-finals of that, which will be played on the 21st of March, where they are at home to Baffin Milton Rovers. And if I am available to go to it, I'd like to go to it. So I'm looking forward to that. Would be, I've been to one semi-final this year down at Shaftesbury in the Dorset Senior Cup, so it'd be good to go to another one. The winners of that semi-final between Andover Town and Baffin Milton Rovers will play either Fareham or Petersfield. And that's a Premier versus First Division, just as the other semi-final is. So, yep, looking forward to those games coming up 21st of March. I then went to saw Andover Town a couple of weeks ago at Whitchurch United. That's a team, Whitchurch is between Andover and Basingstoke. Seems to be a lot of Whitchurches about in England, but this ground is just off the A34. Not easy to park for me that day, to go and park down the side road. And it looked like a massive playing area. I don't know if that was just the light causing the tricks there, but it just looked like a really big playing area. This one I stood behind the goals that Andover attacking for both of them, so spoke to some of the away fans, very decent people, very impatient as well, because they expected Andover Town to turn over Whitchurch quite comfortably, but Whitchurch were very competitive. 2 late goals, one by the aforementioned Lewis Williams, who broke the deadlock, broke the offside trap with the ball slipped through to him, and he put it past the keeper from about 12 yards. Can't remember the second goal scorer. I think it might have been the guy off the bench. Morris, I think he might have been his surname. But anyway, they won 2-0. Pretty routine, to be honest. They were on a little bit of a decent run. And then I went to go and see them last week when they were away to Downton. Now, this was a game, if I'd said this on the previous podcast, I'd driven down to Downton, turned up and the lights were out, and spoke to the chairman, spoke to the financial director. And this time I turned up and the lights were on and the car park was full, so I had to go into the overflow car park. Saw a van get stranded in the mud, even though it hadn't rained for a while. I don't quite know how that happened. These are the details you all live for, I know. And with Downton are up there, slightly higher than Andover Town, probably on the periphery of the playoff places. I think the 2nd to 5th do get in the playoffs in this league. They're probably just outside that point, knocking on the door coming in. But that day they absolutely took Andover Town to the cleaners, beat them 4-1. Andover Town having a man sent off when it was, he's just trying to work it out, I think it was might have been 3-0 at the time. Took an early lead, then got a second midway through that, I think towards the end of the first half. Went 3-0 up reasonably early in the second half. Lewis Williams put one back, and then somehow got a fourth. That was his third of the game with a hat-trick. And yeah, they were really impressive. I liked Downton. I thought they were a really good side. And they followed that up by beating Petersfield on Tuesday, who have been on a fantastic run. Petersfield went to Andover Town, for example, and won 4-0. And if I recall correctly, ended Andover New Street's unbeaten run to the season. Didn't check that up before I came on. Sorry, folks, but that's how that went. So yeah, I will look forward to it because I'm hoping to go down to Downton next Tuesday, the 7th, where they will be playing Andover New Street in a top of the table clash. Downton about 4th or 5th. Andover New Street, if you take the games in hand and so on and so forth, I think will be near the top, if not top. I think they're second at the moment. So yeah, that'll be a really big game, and I'm quite looking forward to that if I can get down there. As always, work and other things could get in the way. And that takes me to the final of the Wessex League games that I've seen this last month, and that was on Tuesday night, the 28th, where I saw Bemerton Heath Harlequins play Shaftesbury. Second time seeing both teams. First time I saw Bemerton Heath was back at the end of last year, I think November last year, when they beat Brockenhurst 4-2. And I've seen Shaftesbury the once when they lost 3-2 to Pooltown in the Dorset Senior Cup. And this, again, was a really interesting game of football. Bemerton Heath, is, if you don't know, it's on the west side of Salisbury. It's got a wonderful looking ground in the dark. I'd love to see it in the daylight. It's called Moon Park as well, which I think is just a great name for the ground. Bemerton Heath are one of the teams in the running for that second place slot in the Premier behind Portchester. You got them up against Stoneham and Horndean as the three teams that will be contesting for that second place. Bemerton Heath's got absolute mountain of goals in the league. I think it's 92 already. They're them and Portchester are by far the top scorers. So expecting goals, and what I got for the first half was a pretty scrappy game where Shaftesbury, to be fair, were tactically right at it, right on Bemerton Heath all the time, stopping their two main sources to me, Danny Young and Greg Peel. But just for half time, there was a mystery penalty given. Again, my eyesight isn't what it used to be. It appeared to be for shirt pulling from a corner. Everyone seemed a bit mystified, but Greg Peel stepped up and scored. Put us. I'm not a Bemerton Heath fan yet, but put Bemerton Heath up 1-0. And then second half started with one of them things that would be on a Christmas cracker video. Back pass from Jamie, I can't remember his surname, for Bemerton Heath. Looking harmless. Goalkeeper missed it, and it rolled into the back of the net. I didn't really do that justice. It was like a slow-mo disaster. But yeah, that made it 1-1. And then Kellaway made it 2-1 from a corner for Shaftesbury. So this was not going to plan for the home team. I'm sure they thought this was a 3 points definite for them. Again, you have to earn everything in these leagues. It's what I really like about it. It's not that predictable, seriously. Anyway, didn't take long for Bemerton Heath to equalise. The Harlequins went down the left-hand side. Danny Young was a player I really like there. He's a left winger. Got more in the game in the second half, and I think that's why they came through in the end. He sets up Greg Peel for an equaliser. Peel was the man who scores a lot of their goals. And then, to be fair, Shaftesbury didn't give in. They played really well towards the end of the game. Had a few chances. There's one on the break for Bemerton Heath. But 3 minutes into added on time, the Harlequins get a corner on the right. The ball's floated over to the far post. Up goes, and I'm trying to remember his name, Charlie Burden. Yep, the left back, number 3. Powers in a header. Makes it 3-2. Does the old Teddy Sheringham, Jurgen Klinsmann dive for celebration. Everyone went mad. Everyone happy. And it was a good game. And they won 3-2. They're now second in the Wessex Premier. So good luck to Bemerton Heath. I'm definitely going to go back down there. Put a piece on Magpies in the Phoenix blog, and that's been really, really well received. I'm really grateful for Bemerton Heath for participating. They've obviously circulated it well, and yeah, that's really nice. So they probably have now moved slightly ahead of Downton and Andover Town in my popularity index down here, and so maybe they might be my team. You never know. Phoenix beware. I may be becoming a Harlequins fan. Okay, so we've done a lot on that. Shall we quickly go on now to the Millwall misery memory? And I wonder if you, unless you're a Millwall fan, you're never going to guess who the team is. But this is about 3 visits to a town. Is it in Somerset? Bath. Twerton Park. We went there 3 times in the space of 2 years, 2 and a bit years. This is Millwall, of course, in the early 90s. And that was when we had, the first time we went down there, we had Sheringham. And the third time down there, we had the Mick McCarthy Diamond team that could play beautiful football or could get stuffed each week. You never really knew with them half the time. Really good goal scorers and then really leaky defence at times. And in the middle year, we had the Bruce Rioch, the car crash season. I think the Bristol Rovers away game that year was probably the start of the major pile-up. Anyway, we played them 3 games in a row down there, and we lost every time. And my Millwall misery memory really starts on the 2nd of March 1991, 32 years ago. I still wasn't actually working at my current employer at that point. I was still working in a record warehouse. I also remember it because I busted my foot. I remember we played Oxford in the midweek game and I was limping. I couldn't take the crutches into the ground because I bust my foot. And that was the time at the old Manor Ground. We had the long pathway down to the away end. It seemed like, walking for miles of one end. Anyway, I digress. We played there, got in that away end to the corner of one of the goals. Lost 1-0. Tony Seeley, ex-Palace, scored the winner. And they were near the bottom. I think they got out of it. We'd had an awful 1-1 draw with them at home earlier in the season, and they became that team that just we couldn't beat. The following season, we played them again. We'd lost 1-0 at home to them in a dreadful game earlier in the season. And then we went down there on a February afternoon and lost to a 90th minute Phil Barber own goal from 20 yards where he belted the ball into the top corner. It was 3-2. It is the most memorable local commentary game I've got on a video. It confused Chris Armstrong, the ex-Tottenham, Palace, Millwall player. Chris Armstrong with John McGlashan, who was a 6-foot-tall Scot. The fact they didn't look at all like each other is still hilarious to me. But yeah, Chris Armstrong scored for us that day. We went 1-0 down, we equalised. We went 2-1 down, we equalised. But then we lost in the last minute to a dreadful own goal. And you're just thinking this is one of these venues. The following year we went there on Halloween. I think it may have been the night. I don't know. One night we definitely, when we played them, was a night that Lennox Lewis knocked out Razor Ruddock. Anyway, I digress again. We played them again, that one. And this might also have been the one where Malcolm Allison turned up to it and ended up becoming their manager a couple of weeks later. Anyway, they played us again. And again, this was when we were playing all right. A decent side under McCarthy. We were getting a lot of good reps. We played some good football on the live TV games. And we lost 1-0 to a goal. Just goal 5 minutes from end. We lost 3 games on the trot there, away from home, in the last 5 minutes. Awful venue. That year, Bristol Rovers also finished off the old den by coming down on the last day of the season and beating us 3-0. Bristol Rovers, my Millwall misery moment. Subsequently, with Bristol Rovers, then went to the Memorial Ground. I saw us lose at least twice. One on Boxing Day. Until finally in our promotion year of 2000 to 2001, away from home at least, we broke our jinx with a 2-1 win. Goals from Neil Harris and Stephen Reed. And on a quagmire of a pitch. But yeah, Bristol Rovers, my Millwall misery memory for this week. This month even. Who knows when I'm next going to be back on this podcast. Okay, and let's finish off today with just a quick roundup of what's happening next and where we're going and other teams I sort of keep an eye out for. So let's do Holsworthy, the Magpies and the Phoenix. Not been a great month for my boys down there. They now sit clearly second from bottom in the league with another set of really horrible looking fixtures coming up for them. They really seem to be having the teams near the top. They've got an informed Axminster side away on Saturday, who won at Honiton yesterday. Honiton actually opening their new floodlights, which is great for them. Well done to the club. Hope might get down there at the end of the season, because the Holsworthy game against them has been rearranged for the end of the season. And yeah, Axminster also got a draw at my favourite club, Oakhampton. My really favourite club. So yeah, they're banging form and up there challenging for the top 4 or 5 places in the league. So let us good luck to the boys on Saturday, and no exclusive here, that's where I'm hoping to be. It's about an hour and a half drive from where I live. It's about as close as Holsworthy get to where I live, and yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I'm really hoping to see the guys, and hope I bring them the luck I did at Torresside when we beat them 2-0 away from home on New Year's Eve. The following Saturday, they're at home to Brixham, who probably are challenging Oakhampton to be the winners of this league along with Crediton. Brixham, who had a great run in the Vars, just had it ended. If they'd have got through that last round, they would indeed have been playing the Vars fixture on Saturday week, and we wouldn't have had a game when I was down in Devon. But you know, good luck for me that Brixham got knocked out, but sad for the South West Peninsula. And Tier 6, they were last step 6. I think they were last step 6 team in the competition, or one of the last 2 anyway. Anyway, Brixham are flying, and yeah, I think they won 9-0 last weekend. So that looks like a tough old fixture as well. So good luck to Holsworthy. I'm looking forward to seeing the guys. You know what place in my heart that club has, and I really hope that they don't go down. Praying they don't go down. It would be awful for them. But there's also been clubs folding in that league, so I'm pretty sure they might be all right anyway. Let's see. Lots of things that still need to be sorted. There's been a huge problem down there, of course, with the merger between the South West Peninsula and the Western League, which has now been abandoned in rancour, and that is rancour, and some sort of heated words, but not for this podcast. But yeah, hopefully it doesn't affect Holsworthy too much. Also down there, Bidford have had a good run actually until Tuesday when they lost their home game to Bashley. But up until then, they picked up a few points in February and have pulled away from the relegation area. It's still not safe, not by any stretch of the imagination. They can't be having a bad run down there at the moment. But they picked up some big points and they look okay at the moment. They don't score a lot of goals, that's absolutely certain, but they don't concede many either. So I don't think they have a home game while I'm down there. Certainly don't have one in the midweek. Unless there's a cup tie I can't see. But so I'm not going to get to see my favourite floodlights in the whole of non-league football, which is a shame. But good luck to Bidford and the Robins going forward. They again, the first team I ever saw at non-league level in a non-league fixture, and obviously a real soft spot for them. Up in London, Cray Valley Paper Mills have had a poor run in February. I saw them beat Hythe 2-0 towards the end of January. When I said Hythe were near the bottom, actually Hythe have been on an absolutely storming run since then. Stevie Phillips keeping lots of clean sheets, and Hythe are up there challenging. But Paper Mills have had a bit of a ragged old run in February. Just picked up a couple of wins towards the end, so they're not out of the playoff picture just yet. But that's really tight, massively tight down there. The team banging form, it appears at the moment, is Sevenoaks. They've come from mid-table to storm up the table now into, I think, their third or fourth. Ramsgate gone back top again, having sacked their manager and put a new one in place there now. They've now got a little bit of a cushion at the top, but that is a really, really tight league again. So keeping an eye out on that, and especially at the bottom, because if Phoenix finish second, I reckon they'll play either the third or fourth bottom in that league, which is currently Sittingbourne and might be Burgess Hill. I can't think of them, but Sittingbourne, who I thought were going to do really well this year, are stuck down the bottom. And everyone says the team to watch here is Faversham, who've spent a shed load of money. They're still bottom, but they're picking points up. A couple of weeks ago, they were 3-0 down at league leaders Ramsgate and came back to draw 3-3, so they're no mugs at the moment. They're just not picking the results up. They lost at Sevenoaks at the weekend. And so, yeah, they've got a lot of work to do. But the thing is, you don't want to be playing a team if they get out into the third or fourth bottom position. You really wouldn't want to be playing them if they've had a bit of a run of form to come out of it. But this is all ifs, ands, buts and maybes, and we will see where we go with that in the near future. I've not really done much research on Cray Wanderers, up in the league above. They were, I think, at one half time in February, they were top of the Isthmian Premier, but that's not happened for them since. They've tailed off a little, and are not doing as well. They're still up and at them around the periphery. So maybe I'll find out a bit more about how they get you on and be a bit more prepared for the next podcast to come on. But there's a lot of information and detail in this I know already, and I'm sort of bombarding you with football matches all over the place. So that is this edition of the Magpies and the Phoenix. There will be a little bit of a finale before I actually do say goodbye for this month. First of all, a plug for the two blogs that I write, 7 and 7/8, and the Magpies and the Phoenix. 7 and 7/8 now I've sort of decided will be more for the long form games, long form reports and games. And these are games that have got to matter. I mean, I was going to write about Glebe, but there wasn't really a lot I could write about Glebe because it was such a boring game, to be honest with you. A dull game, not fair to call them boring. Didn't feel boring at the time. But yeah, that'll be for the games like an Erith and Belvedere or a Whitstable, and possibly for Holsworthy at the weekend as well, because of the meaning for me going back to see them again. And then the Magpies and the Phoenixes, for all the other games, I'll stick all the photographs on there, and match reports, bit of ground guides as well, a little bit following in a bit of inspiration from a blogger called The Wandering Tractor, one I would absolutely recommend. Now that man has got a figure like he has. It doesn't look like he's a large fellow. When the burgers he puts away, he actually rates the burgers and the food at the ground. He was due down at Phoenix on the 11th of March, but he's now not coming till the end of the season. So I wonder if our canteen people can put on a special of some sort for the end of season. Food's quite good down at Phoenix, by the way, but it's not meant to be, I think, extraordinary like some of the stuff I see he consumes. So yeah, there's those two blogs. Please read them. I enjoy writing them immensely, and I enjoy any feedback I get. And also follow me on Twitter at Demetrius Old. I write about football and other stuff as well, but you might not find that as interesting. I did record a podcast in the middle of February, and I've chosen not to release it. Number one, because I was hugely down when I did it. I am not ashamed to say I have a few mental health and mental well-being issues, and February was a month of extraordinary pressure at work, and I think I'm only just coming out the other side of it, and I'm still a little bit, I don't know, not on an even keel. It's been a really, really tough month. But the deal we've done is massive. It's brought in a huge amount of money for our department. And of course everyone just moves on to the next one, and no one seems to care too much. And it was I couldn't go to football matches for a time in the middle of February. It actually took all I could to get out for the Whitchurch game against Andover Town. I was just so cheesed off with being stuck in doing work till all hours that I had to get out even for 2 to 3 hours. The previous Tuesday I'd worked until 2 a.m. doing a document report, which was not my idea of fun, and nor would anybody else's. So I recorded that podcast. It isn't the cheeriest thing, and it's left on draft in the system, so I'm not going to issue it at all. So that's just a bit of an explanation as to A, why it's taken a month, and B, what I said a little bit earlier in the podcast. I will say to everybody, I haven't found it hard admitting I have issues with this. Please yourselves, if you do, don't be ashamed of it. Make sure that you try to seek help. It's taken me a while, and yeah, it's been a pretty rough few years. Pandemic never helped. Non-league football, though, I have to say, has saved a lot of angst and has given me such an outlet. I've now done 51 games this season, and about 80 since I first started coming to non-league football last year. It might be in the high 70s. And it's been just amazing. And Phoenix Sports and Holsworthy, two clubs, been utterly amazing to me. And you guys just don't know what you mean, because it's just been that important. So yeah, without getting too sentimental about it, And also, and I'm sure he'll be horrified for me to mention it, I have my brother's got a serious operation, hopefully next week. It was postponed, that's why I got to go to Whitstable. I'm sure if you listen to this, anyone at Phoenix who's met my brother, who's now been inducted into the Phoenix Massive, I'm sure they'll all wish him well. I do. It's going to be a pretty stressful next week. Hoping he comes through it, hoping he has it first of all, because it was cancelled, as I say, 2 weeks ago. Hoping he has it, and hope he comes through on the other side feeling better and feeling well. It's going to take him a bit of a while to recover. His season's probably over. I'm not sure I'd want to put him through a playoff game. But yeah, I wish my brother all the best. He knows that. It's been an added real stress for him and me and his family. So yeah, good luck to him. And as I say, it's been a tough old month. Right, that's it. That's all, folks. I will be on 7 7/8, having gone to Axminster. Photos, hopefully the weather looks good. Really looking forward to a new ground. And yeah, keep the faith in non-league football. Richard seemed to think I might have got it from him, but it was a comment I did a long time ago. If you love non-league football, it loves you back. And by the way, great to see Richard at Phoenix Sports. A real fillip to the club, and the energy he's got is fantastic. And that's the last thing I'm going to say. So, cheerio, Claggy. That's the third time I tried it. Here's the fourth. Cheerio. See you next time. Good luck to everybody.